I've asked the question a lot lately, what sort of a country do we want to live in? And honestly, I do not think we have control over the culture we are trying to create anymore, as our values are being destroyed daily. Today is Rosh Hashanah, Jewish New Year, where families are gathering for celebrations. And yet our Prime Minister is right now parading on the world stage, betraying the very values we hold so dear in recognising a Palestinian state.
We recognise the legitimate and long-held aspirations of the people of Palestine of a state of their own. And in doing so, we reaffirm Australia's long-standing position of two states, the State of Israel and the State of Palestine, living side by side behind internationally recognised borders in peace and security.
What an utter betrayal, and not just to Jewish Australians, but for all of us who are worried that our values are being completely eroded by warped ideology and by those who hate the West. Hamas does not want a two-state solution. It wants its own state and to wipe out Israel. All Anthony Albanese has done today is reward terror, exactly what Western democracies stand against. And in return, terrorists are rewarding him.
ليش كل الدول أصبحت تعترف بفلسطين الآن؟ قبل 7 أكتوبر هل في دولة تجرأت على أن تعترف بدولة فلسطين؟ أعطيني بس من ذلك. الآن حصاد 7 أكتوبر هو الذي خلى كل العالم يفتح عيونه على القضية الفلسطينية.
Yeah, when Hamas declares victory, that is when you know you are on the wrong side of history. I mean, this is a Prime Minister whose own electorate office in Sydney had to be shut down because of anti-Israel protests, yet he thinks his childhood fantasy of recognising a Palestinian state is going to solve the crisis in the Middle East. He is completely and utterly delusional. So if Hamas is giving the Prime Minister a big pat on the back, well, what does it mean for us at home? Well, we know the answer because we've seen it play out since October 7, 2023, like a slow-motion train wreck. Week in, week out, these anti-Israel protests bring shame to Australia. Flags of terror groups like Hamas are being waved so brazenly in the streets, as have chants of death to the IDF. Hate preachers brag about being elated by the Hamas terror attacks. The Australian and Israeli flags are set alight on the steps of the Sydney Opera House. A portrait of the Ayatollah of Iran is carried across the Harbour Bridge. Synagogues are firebombed. Anti-Semitic slogans are graffitied on houses and businesses. Jews are intimidated day in, day out. Nurses are filmed on camera allegedly saying that they would kill Jewish patients. You don't need me to tell you what this has led to. In fact, the Greens said it themselves today. Their Foreign Affairs spokesman, David Shoebridge, said, quote, "The recognition of Palestine is a victory for the many Australians who have been calling for this." So a victory for the anti-Israel brigade. And so I ask again, what sort of a country do we want to live in? Because this is not the Australia we know and love. And you don't have to be Jewish to see the threat that is unfolding in front of our very eyes. Yet the Prime Minister seems to be just making it up as he goes along.
Our active recognition is based on the commitments received from the Palestinian Authority, including that the terrorists of Hamas cannot govern Gaza again. Palestine recognises Israel's right to exist in peace and security, and the Palestinian Authority will demilitarise and hold democratic elections, driving broader reform to governance, finance and education.
Well, let's break this down. Firstly, the Palestinian Authority is run by the anti-Semitic Mahmoud Abbas, hardly a bloke whom you can trust. Secondly, this nonsense about democratic elections, when Abbas was elected on a 4-year term back in 2005, no election was held 4 years later, and guess what? He's still there 20 years later. And thirdly, he says it's based on commitments that Hamas cannot govern Gaza again. Hamas was elected in 2006 in the Palestinian parliamentary election. The people wanted the terrorists there. But the Prime Minister and Penny Wong seem to think that they have got it all under control.
Now, Australia has made clear we will work with the Palestinian Authority and the international community to both build the capacity of the authority but also to hold the authority to the commitments it has made publicly to the international community.
Really? I mean, does Penny Wong seriously think the Palestinian Authority is open and willing to engage in international diplomacy under international law? Do they think that this is the way to destroy Hamas? Just, throw a couple of deals on the table, sign a few documents, smile on the world stage and, well, Bob's your uncle, peace is secured. Is that seriously how they think terrorists will conform? Well, let me show you the vile terrorists Israel is trying to eradicate. As Australia recognises Palestine, Hamas has publicly executed 3 Gazans it claims are collaborating with Israel. And now a warning, the following vision is distressing.
وقد تقرر حكم الإعدام على كل المتكبرين وعميل الكبير أحمد جندية والكبير العميل.
Yep, this is the very regime Anthony Albanese has given recognition to. The same regime who murdered 1,200 Jews on October 7, raped women, tortured civilians and took Jews hostage. The same regime still holding 48 hostages. The same regime deliberately starving hostages and making them dig their own graves. And another warning, this footage is again distressing.
מה שאני עושה עכשיו, אני חופר את הקבר. הקבר שמיועד מבחינתי לי. כי כל יום שעובר הגוף שלי הולך, נחלש, ירזה יותר וחלש יותר. מבחינתי זה נראה שאני בדרך למוות שלי.
This is the same regime which has opened fire on Gazans for trying to access aid deliveries, and the same regime taking humanitarian aid to fund its own terror activities, turning the lives of innocent people into a profit-making machine. And the capitulation by Labor is all under the guise of Hamas must release the hostages, Hamas has to agree to peace, there has to be a 2-state solution, blah, blah, blah. And the opposition can see right through it.
Hamas control Gaza. Hamas were voted in by the Palestinian people. Hamas themselves have said this recognition, it rewards the fruits of October the 7th. Words on a piece of paper and symbolism do nothing to change what is actually happening on the ground.
And not to mention, all of this may even be in breach of international law because a state must possess a permanent population, a defined territory, a government and the capacity to enter into relations with other states. And newsflash, Palestine meets none of these criteria under international law, nor is there a functioning single government, nor does it have the capacity to enter into diplomatic relations. Not that Anthony Albanese seems to understand that.
All of those matters all of those matters are to be determined as time comes. We're not about to open an embassy, to be very clear. What we are doing, we're not getting ahead of ourselves. What we are doing is recognising the state of Palestine. Those matters will be determined by the conditions that we've put out.
So let me just summarise this for you. Australia is recognising Palestine because it's a childhood fantasy of the Prime Minister and to bring peace, even though Hamas does not want peace. The Canadian President says he is recognising Palestine and offers our partnership in building the promise of a peaceful future for both the state of Palestine and the state of Israel, even though, again, Hamas, which runs Gaza, does not want that. The UK Prime Minister is recognising Palestine because he wants Israel to commit to a 2-state solution.
In the face of the growing horror in the Middle East, we are acting to keep alive the possibility of peace and a 2-state solution. That means a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable Palestinian state. At the moment, we have neither.
Well, of course you have none of that. Of course you don't. Because right now, a terror group runs the Gaza Strip and wants its own solution, one solution, and to wipe out Israel. Make that make sense. Now, look, if peace is ever found in the Middle East, It certainly will have nothing to do with Anthony Albanese nor Penny Wong masquerading as foreign policy experts and Hamas deal breakers on the world stage. And so I ask again, what sort of a country do we want to live in? Because Anthony Albanese's recognition of Palestine only emboldens those who seek to cause us harm. And it really feels as if it's too far gone now in the face of a changing Australia, led by Labor, who does not have our interests at heart, but their own.